Hi, welcome to this Grandma's Life podcast. I'm your host, theciaellis. Get ready to laugh, learn, and grow with me as we explore growing old in an ever changing world. Today is June 22nd, 2023, and it is episode 35, Hit by a Second Wicked Storm. All right, so we'll start out with farm happenings. Off farm, Kenzie's doing a basketball camp, a different one. Um, this one is they play every Monday. It's kind of cool. I'm liking these basketball camps. They play like I don't know 20-minute halves or something like that. I can't remember how long they play, but they play just halves. But they don't really stop the clock too much, and they play all kinds of different teams and from they got a huge schedule set up so they don't play the same person twice at all. And these girls are getting some playing time, and it's actually I think it's helping and doing pretty good with them. And Kenzie, oh my gosh, guys, I've always told you that she's little. She's 5'1 and a half and 99 pounds trying to play basketball. Tough little girl. One of the toughest little kids I've ever seen. But she gets beat up. And it's kind of funny. You could tell she's tough. I'm not just saying that as a grandma. She got hit. Oh, she and another girl went down going after a ball, and Kinsey went down first, and then the other girl went down, and her knee took Kinsey into the side of the head. Now I'm about to get up and run down there, and she hops back up. You can tell she wasn't liking it, and she was hurt, but she jumped right back up. And one of the other moms turned to me and goes, "She's tough." And I'm thinking, yeah, it's a good thing. So and what she's doing now, I've actually got her gym membership, and she is wanting to go to the gym every day. I think she's gone. I mean, we've only been doing it just a little over a week because she's already been 5 or 6 times. She is determined to put a little bit of bulk on, just muscle bulk, and not be such a featherweight out there on the basketball floor. And she's trying. She's working really hard at it, and I'm really proud of her. All right, we did have another storm. This one was kind of funny because it was in the middle of the night, so Tom got me up and he he says we got to go to the barn. Now, those of you who know me know that our hidey hole is in the barn. It's a concrete bathroom. The ceiling, the walls, and everything like that are in the barn, and so we went out there for that. The girls, Kinsey and her friend, and Tom and myself went out to the barn for that. And now I'll tell you about that's part of my main subject, but that was we've had more damage from that storm. And I don't know, it's just been kind of a week because a few days ago, one of my boarlings, one of the baby piglets, they haven't been honoring the electric fence. I guess it's because they were small enough they could get underneath it. Now all of a sudden they are honoring it more, but I guess they've gotten to a certain size they can't just squeeze underneath it as easily. But they were getting out. You look out the window and little piglets are running everywhere. Well, this one got hung up in Kenzie's pitchback, and he got hung up in the middle of the day, and I'm pretty sure he died from heat exhaustion, and that just broke my heart. Just broke my heart. So I lost a little boarding. And then yesterday morning, I got up and there was no water. And so I told Tom, I said, "There's no water. I don't know what the deal is." And I waited till later on, till because I get up about 5:30, between 5:30 and 6. So I had to wait for the offices to open, and I called the water company. Well, they came out and they said, "Well, yeah, you did." First of all, they couldn't find our meter. Well, I could see why now after working on it so long, because it was underwater. And so, but they finally found it. They said the leak is on our side, and so we have to fix it. But at least they turned the water off for us, and that was good. Poor Tom, he went out worked on it yesterday. He actually took the day off of work to work on it. And he wasn't feeling great in the first place. So he gets out there in that heat, and he's in the knee deep in water and mud and muck, and he can't even find the water line. And he got himself pretty sick. He he had to come in. I think he had trouble with some heat exhaustion because he's still struggling with it some today too. But we had the water line break. So I knew he was sick, but we went for 24 hours without water here. I get up this morning and Waddles with the piglets had knocked over their water barrel and they didn't have any water. So I've been hauling, gallon jugs for my other birds. I could fill up their waters pretty easily, but I don't have enough gallon jugs set aside for a 55-gallon water barrel. So I went down there. I knew I was going to have to work on it because Tom was sleeping because he really was sick. And I got down there and I did not know what I was doing. You couldn't see the meter at all. Today, it wasn't a matter of being underwater, it was all under mud. And I did find some flags, and I called the water company and said, yes, that's where the meter is located, and the leak should be about 2 feet to the north of it. I'm going, okay, all right, we can do that. And I started digging it. Well, Dom had tried to dig. He was digging and digging and digging, but it was just mudding back in. So I was out there digging, and I'm thinking, you know what? My pigs need water now. I need to do something now. So I actually sent a message to my pastor. Said, look, okay, here's my situation. I'm racing the sun. I don't have water. Uh, it's all under mud, and we got to find the leak. I said, if you would put the word out for people to come and help, I'd really appreciate it. Now, this was not originally supposed to be part of this podcast. This has just happened today, and I've got to tell you because you know what they say that about several people came and others offered, but three different people with backhoes came and offered to bring their backhoes to dig up the thing for us, and one of them did show up. I told the other two they didn't need to. Um, and at first I thought, well, I don't need water. As soon as we get our water fixed, I could fill up the water for the pigs. But one of them showed up with 35 gallons of water and helped me fill up their water with that. And it was probably a good thing because we're nowhere near finished doing our pigs or doing the fighting the water and getting it fixed, and the pigs were fighting over the water. So I was glad he brought the water. I was glad the guy came with the backhoe. I wasn't going to call a plumber. One of the guys in our church is a plumber, but you don't want to bother people. But the one guy with the backhoe called him and said, here's our situation, because I'd already bought the parts. Oh my gosh, guys. And you know what else happened too? Tom told me yesterday he wanted a 1-inch pipe, PVC pipe, and the connects for the Enzo, for the Enzo for straight connect. And I bought it, and I thought, man, this thing is long. My car's pretty long, but this thing is long. So, but I snaked the PVC pipe up the passenger side, and it was just sticking out just a couple of inches. And I thought, well, maybe it'll just bend down when I close the hatch. Nope, it went right into my windshield. So now I've got a crack in my windshield. So, yeah. But the plumber man came and he fixed it. The other guy with the backhoe covered the whole back up. The real water district showed up in the middle of this because he couldn't find the meter box. He said he discovered I probably needed a new meter box. Well, he got down there and realized that the meter box is in good shape. It was it was a extension on top of it that had deteriorated. It was down to nothing. And so he got an extension. He goes, this is still not enough. I'm going to have to go get another extension to make it taller, so at least it's above ground. I said, okay. So he disappeared to go get that, and I believe he just finished doing that here just a few minutes ago. Um, I found out that the second storm, well, in the second storm, one of my waterers got busted up, and so I had to send Kinsey to town to buy me a new one because I can't figure out what was going with it to see if I could even. I think it's on the seam, but so there's been a lot going on, but I have water again. I'm so grateful to have water. And I immediately went out there and did more water for the pigs, made them some mud holes to lie in, and they're pretty happy. It's hot today. It's in the 90s, I think. So yeah, that's good to get that done. So those are the farm happenings. My three things: number one, fix the water line break, and we got that done. Yes. Number two, I got to do menu and groceries for the week. I'm in the middle of that. I haven't finished doing that yet. And number three is record and post this podcast. So we're in the process of doing that too. So I'm getting some pretty important stuff done, and I'm really grateful for that. Okay, what I am reading, we're still on the 4-volume set with the Edgar Casey collection. And this particular one's Edgar Casey on Dreams by Harmon H. Bro, PhD. This was written in 1968 as part of the Association for Research and Enlightenment. And this is part 4, Self-Development Through Dreams, Chapter 11, Through Dreams to a Healthy Body. Now, I only marked one thing in here, and it's kind of interesting because there wasn't even really much to talk about on it. But it is interesting. But I'll read it to you, and maybe you can derive something from it. This is on page 133. It says, then Casey spoke about death, where the separation of orders of creation becomes clear. At death, That of the material kingdom remains material. That of the spiritual kingdom remains spiritual. Man develops the soul in that experience or lifetime along its plane of existence. Like the animal, the human body at death becomes as dust to dust, while the spirit force goes on its own sphere. Souls now on earth, this is a weird sentence. I believe I'm saying this properly. Souls now on earth, lives have become disoriented and too often try to live the way of the soul by the way of the animal, not in an unworthy way, but wrong for them as the appointed plan of creation. And that has given me a lot of things for thought, but I'm still not exactly sure how I feel about that yet. But that is from that book, and that's all I got for that today. I did just finish the Happiness Advantage, both on in the book, reading it and listening to it. That's part of what we're reading on the Level Up Masterclass, and I will discuss that with you in the future. So that was kind of interesting for that. On the Edgar Casey book, and I kind of like the Happiness Advantage too, because it got into some psychology and stuff, and it was good. I enjoyed it. I learned a lot, and that's what we're here to learn. All right, the quote of the day is from Bernie S. Siegel, MD. It says, "One cannot get through life without pain. What we can do is choose how to use the pain life presents to us." And I chose that quote because I won't lie, the damage from the storm has caused me some pain this week, and I will discuss some of the pain with you, or some of the damage we've had when I get to the main subject. But I have been struggling lately. I won't lie. Between the storm damage and the piglet dying and the water break and all that other stuff, there's been some pain this last week, and so I've had to do some introspection and try to keep my act together. And I have to admit, I was just telling my husband a while ago, I said, I think I've changed. I said, whenever the storms came through, the first storm came through and we had damage. That was one thing. By the second storm came through, we had more damage. That was another thing. When the piglet died, by then my old me would have been throwing things and cussing and crying and throwing a fit. And I didn't. I was upset, but I didn't. When I shoved the PVC pipe into the windshield, the old me would have been throwing a fit and stuff too, and I didn't. So, and Kenzie's car's broken down, and they're talking like it's going to cost like $1,200 to fix it. I've never heard of a car that had when the power steering went out. So we were looking and looking and looking and trying to find a some place to put power steering fluid, and only to discover that it's electronic. And so we were trying to fix ourselves. We really wanted to try to fix ourselves, but I ended up having to take it to a mechanic. And it's not just a little part that they got to replace. It's not just a vacuum line that's got to be replaced. They're probably going to replace the whole rack and pinion or whatever it's called, steering that is electronically turned into power steering. So yeah, I'm serious. It's been a week. So that's why I chose this particular quote. One cannot get through life without pain. What we can do is choose how to use the pain life presents to us. By Bernie S. Siegel, MD. Now, Dr. Siegel is an American writer of several books, and he's a retired pediatric surgeon. He was born in Brooklyn, New York in 1932, and he's 90 years old. His interesting views on cancer included the idea that a person who experiences less turmoil and cultivated a strong immune system was less likely to come down with cancer and more likely to survive if diagnosed. There were studies I was reading on it that's what he maintained, that if you live a life of turmoil, that your chances of coming down with cancer are more and dying from it are more. And if you keep the turmoil in your life down, your chances of coming down and dying from cancer are less. That was his stance on it, but the article also said that they never did find any actually true evidence to indicate that was true. And I was looking for a scripture today that kind of went along with that too, but I ran across a different one, and I have been kind of wanting to address this issue on a little bit. And so I took this tack with the scripture of the day. It's Genesis 6:6. The Lord regretted that he made human beings on earth, and his heart was deeply troubled. Genesis 6:6. Um, I feel like we are woefully, if not there, woefully close, if not there, to being where God is. He's sorry he made us once again. He made it when in Genesis, that's what he was saying, that there was so much corruption on earth that's when he sent the flood to destroy the earth. And of course, the rainbow that I discussed on the previous podcast, that was indicating that the rainbow was a promise that he would not destroy us by water again. Well, there's a lot of other ways to destroy earth or people on the earth, not just with flooding. And I really feel like we're pushing our luck with that. I understand that civilizations rise and fall, and civilizations have their ups and downs, and corruption and not and stuff. But I really feel, and people are saying, well, it's end times, it's end times. Yeah, it could be end times, but it could not be too. He isn't back. He is, and we're still here. That's what my stance is on it. But we've got to do what we have to do here to take care of things while we're here. And so I just worry that we are at that point where God has regretted that he had made us. I mean, think about it. We've got Pride Month. This is Pride Month, guys. And it's kind of sad because the actual people who have gender dysphoria or all that other stuff, the percentages are extremely low. And a lot of it, they have been fed malarkey that has encouraged the behavior, and talked them into doing this. And where in real, I mean, they may be questioning their own sexuality and stuff, but they also are encouraged to question their sexuality and encouraged to make life changing changes to their body, permanent. I think even some of them are being told that it's not permanent, just in case they change their mind, and they're finding out that they can't really detransition and stuff. And I don't know, I cannot, part of me is like, really, I can't believe this. The political corruption. I'm sorry. For several years was anti-political. I didn't want to hear anything about anything political. Um, and even now, there's corruptions on both sides of the aisle. If you actually do your research and see some of the freedoms we lost, they were under the Republican um, administration. And the stuff that's going right now with the Democratic administration is just accelerating the madness. So I'm still kind of anti-political, but I'm a little bit more into it to understand it a little bit more. But we all know the level of corruption that's happening right now. The media bias is even finding that too. It's kind of interesting. Somebody made a point, and I kind of agree with it. Even after the Tucker Carlson thing, is uh, the CNN and them have decided they're going to take the left stance. So therefore, that regardless if it was accurate or not, Fox has decided to take the opposite stance. So to keep us divided, and and I, division is not what we need to be doing. We need to be getting accurate information out there and not being stopped to put out the accurate information and let people be smart enough to make their own decisions. And if they're not smart enough to make their own decisions, that's on them. But the rest of the people, whatever decision they make, they need to be able to live with that and not what the government has told us that we've been doing. So the media bias has got us completely divided and stuff too. First Amendment restrictions, that's what I was talking about on that too. We weren't even allowed to discuss other options. We weren't even supposed to even do our own research with the coronavirus and stuff. And some of the stuff that they're wanting to put into schools, in colleges, is just crazy. And if they say it's their First Amendment right to speak out against well, that was one of the things too, is that different Christians and other people like them, and women who want to keep certain things out of school, they are now on the hate group list. Come on, guys. We're trying to protect our families. We're trying to protect our children. We're trying to protect our First Amendment rights. And now we're on hate groups. Yeah, I'm concerned. I've always hoped that we'd be kind of like Nineveh, and we'd come to our senses and turn back to God. And one argument was, I think Billy Bonds had said that yeah, but down the road, Nineveh was overturned anyway. They collapsed, but they bought some time. And they changed their mind. At least that generation changed their mind. And so part of me really wish and hopes and prays that we kind of come to our senses and we don't make our wonderful country come to a complete collapse. I fear it's too late. I don't know. We'll have to see. So that's kind of what I had chosen that scripture of the day. Like I said, I was trying to find something more along the pain, but I came across that one, and I wanted to cover that situation a little bit. Our main subject, the details of the second storm. Okay, so we talked about the first storm. That was kind of a trip. Um, a quick recap. That was early in the morning. I got Tom up to go out to the barn to take a shower because that's where our bathroom is right now. And while he was in the bathroom, that storm hit, and I had windows so I could see what was going on there. And during that storm, my skirting that actually is pretty sturdy. This storm was just that bad. So we know that I've been doing skirting for a long time, and had pretty much gotten it to a position where not every little wind blew it down. But this was wicked enough that it was ripping screws out of the wall. And so yeah, my skirting's damaged. The cover to my camper, it got twisted and thrown, and the cinder blocks that were on top to help stabilize that were thrown like 40 feet. My brooder shed lost its front doors, and the back half was trying to blow out. And I'm trying to remember what else that we had for that particular one. So that was the first storm. And and the one of my chicken tractors, it got turned over completely on its side, and the tarp that was this roof was shredded, all shredded. And then Saturday night, uh, late or early Sunday morning, actually, we could see from a distance a lot of western Oklahoma was having some severe wet weather. And I went on to bed, but Tom stayed up. And finally, I think it's about 12:30 in the morning, maybe 1 o'clock in the morning. Tom says, I hate to get you up, but we've got to go to the barn. I said, okay. So I found out we had about 20 minutes before it actually got to us. Getting teenage girls up in the middle of the night is a challenge sometimes. Cadence, the other girl that stays with us, she did pretty good. She didn't want to get up, you could tell, but Kenzie was sleeping and sleeping hard. And I got to tell on her, I'll go, okay, we got to go, guys. We've got to get into the barn. We've got to get to this thing. Kenzie's going, I'm up. Leave me alone. I'm sleeping. I'm going, no, you don't understand. You've got to get up now. And I was patient with her, but I had to go back like 3 times. I'd walk away, give them time to get up and get around, and come back, and they're still asleep, and I'd have to get them up again. Cadence got up the second time. It took me the third time to get Kinsey up, and she was so funny though. The next day, she'd come to me and she goes, "Oh, Grandma, I'm so sorry. That was such a poop last night." And I'm going, "You were asleep," But yeah, she was. She was like, "I'm up. Leave me alone." She's just not that way in real life, but she was when she wants to sleep. But we got him out to the barn. Had him bring blankets. Um, Tom and I sat outside and watched the storm, and I believe we actually saw. Well, I knew we were in a tornado warning, and I was watching the path. And actually, whenever the lightning was just right, I think we saw the funnel cloud over the northwest hill, west northwest. And so we got so then all of a sudden the wind hit, and like, all right, let's close down the barn and stuff. And it was kind of interesting because we're in the barn now. Rain is loud in the barn and everything. So because it's a tin building, but I couldn't see anything. Whenever this on the storm on Wednesday, I could look out the window and I could see how bad it was, how hard the wind was blowing that day, but I couldn't see it this time. So I had no concept what I was going to walk out and find. And so we sat there for several minutes, and then when it passed over, a lot of tornadoes and stuff, people really think that it's kind of like a hurricane. They last forever, ever and ever, and they really don't. The storm themselves is an actual front that hits you or something, and it lasts 10 minutes, 15 minutes. Tornadoes can sometimes only last a few seconds. It's but we didn't have the actual, even though we saw the tornado, it did not touch down anywhere near us. But so we had the straight line winds again too. But it was an interesting one too, because it wasn't just for a couple of minutes from the beginning of the storm. It lasted probably a good 20, 30 minutes. And when it finally calmed down, there was a lot of lightning and stuff too. When it calmed down enough, I could send the girls back to bed, and then Tom went back to bed, and I got my raincoat on, and I started looking around and seeing what was going on with how much damage there was. Yeah, my brooder shed that had already had some damage. I was looking at, had gone out by the turkeys and my layer birds, and there's the roof of the brooder shed, and it had been blown, I don't know, 50, 60 feet. and had landed over there. I'm terrible with distance, but I'm pretty sure that was pretty accurate. And the other chicken tractor, the first one, the I had only kind of tied off the tarp, and I had to put it kind of back together so the birds could be covered for the night. And I went to the second chicken tractor, and it had been scooted. And Tom had gone out before the storm. He had given us enough time to make some uh, preparations. Like get chairs set up, get the girls get blankets and pillows, and let the wheels down on the chicken tractor and stuff like that. And he did. And this chicken tractor got scooted across sideways on the property far enough that it rolled over the water, and the water actually busted the bottom frame of the chicken tractor. It busted the water. I finally later discovered, and my ducklings disappeared. I mean, they were just flat gone. I found one, and I was trying to catch him and put him back in the pen, and he wouldn't be caught. And I believe that was like 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning when I'm out there assessing all this. And so I was heartbroken about that because I had 5 ducklings that are, they're a couple months old, and they're already turning. They're turning from the fluffy yellow to the white that the Pekin ducks do. So they had some age on them, and that was discouraging. And then I saw the brooder shed, and it's just completely collapsed. It's just it could be repaired, because it's like those panels, like it's one of those tough sheds and panels that stick together and stuff. But I don't think I have it in me to put it together right now. A lot of the holes that we drilled for screwing in, they're ripped. So I don't know how we're going to do it, or even if we will. I don't know at this point. The part that was over our camper, one of the pieces of tin on the first the first storm blew off, and that's what blew out into the field. But the second piece that was on it was twisted, and it had twisted my post. It had actually bent my post down. They're 4x4 post, and it had tweaked it kind of sideways. But after the second storm, the piece of metal untwisted, and the post actually went back upright. Now we know it's going to be loose in the ground, but it's back upright where it was had a pretty good angle on it before. My pigs were fine. My piglets were freaked out, and excuse me, and so they needed to be, they needed time to calm down and stuff. And so I don't know. We don't have a whole lot of trees here. A lot of my neighbors had some terrible damage. It's a pastor and his wife of a church nearby, and their house is surrounded by the big, beautiful old trees, and it just totally demolished their back deck. And one of the limbs came down and went through the roof into their bed. And I don't believe either one of them were hurt. Thank God, because you know, the, maybe they weren't even in bed. I don't know, but it did. It pierced their bed, and so they've spent days cleaning up. The first storm had taken the roof off of one of the buildings downtown at Foyle, and I don't know. Even now, I think they said there was in Tulsa. They've had enough damage in Tulsa that I think Tom said there's 1,100 power poles that are damaged or down. Oh, and something else happened on that the next morning after. On early Sunday morning, I got up to was doing a storm assessment, and I'm going to have a video coming out on this too. But I'm hearing something, and my dogs had scared up doe and her fawn, and the fawn ran off, and the doe ran off, and the fawn was left behind, bah, bah, bah. And so I'm chasing down the fawn and the dogs and trying to rescue the fawn, and they got her, and they've injured her some. So I ended up carrying the fawn back up to the house, and then we took her there. I lived like literally 1 mile uh, by the as a crow flies from Wild Heart Ranch, which is a animal rehabilitation place. I mean, she even does bald eagles. She does all kinds of things. We took I got Tom up, and we took this fawn over to Wild Heart Ranch, and we're kind of standing there while they're assessing the fawn's injuries, and there's a lemur walking around. And it was kind of interesting because I'm watching this lemur walking around, and he actually jumped up on top of a table and stuck his nose down into a cup. And one of the ladies who was trying to work on the fawns going, "Hey, get your nose out of my coffee." It's an interesting place. I mean, they had keep most things in cages and stuff for the so they can be rehabbed and everything. But every once apparently she had a blind. Oh, what was it called? It's kind of like a little kangaroo. I can't remember what they're called, but she had one of them for a long time. But it finally got old and died. She's had some interesting animals over there. But they took the fawn. They don't like to take fawns in the springtime because people find fawns in the field and think they've been abandoned, and then so the mom comes back and find out that her baby's gone. Well, if they had just left the fawn alone, mom would have found her. But my say so I was a little worried. Well, did I do the wrong thing? She goes, no, because you saw the mom run off. You saw that the dogs were attacking, and I couldn't put him down. I wasn't her. It was a baby girl. I couldn't put the fawn down or keep my dogs under control enough to keep from chasing her and causing more problems. So they said, and she's injured, so they took this fawn. But she'll have a whole big old room, like 20 by 20 room, something like that. There's nothing but a whole bunch of fawns in. They feed several times a day, bottle feed. And so then you have a whole bunch of bottle fed deer hanging around here. Deer hunting around here is usually pretty easily done. So I don't know, but that was kind of distressing too. I have to admit, because I knew that if I had put her back down, that my dogs would have finished that fawn up. I had seen the mom; she really tried. She was calling and she was trying to do things, but she also knew that we were two dogs, and so she ended up running off. And so that was part of that morning too. So that was interesting, I guess. But yeah, it's been a little and more skirting damage. I'm going to have to do a lot of work on my skirting and stuff too. So there's a lot of damage around here. No trees. A lot of my neighbors had a lot of tree damage. So I don't know. It's been a little bit discouraging. And that storm dumped 1.6 inches of rain that overnight too. And that part's okay because we're actually low on rain, but woo, not in the storm form. Not too. I've been around for a long time, and I was raised in Southwest Oklahoma. We've seen some storms, and these two made the cake. I won't lie. All right. In fact, that brings up for my story of the day. When I lived in Southwest Oklahoma, we lived in one little town called Washita, and I literally lived across the street from the school. And this school had two storm shelters, one on each side of the school. So whoever's on the other side of town, they could go run to the other storm shelter. And then over there, just right across the street from where I lived. And I think I told you about this a little bit whenever I was talking about the time that the tornado chased us. Um, we would run over there, and these are long, narrow storm shelters with the doors that are on chain or, weights and stuff. And so the there would be chairs along each side, and that's usually where the mom sat, and sometimes the little kids and everything. They would have games and stuff, board games or whatever, some sort of toys or something for the kids to play. Because back whenever I was a kid, back in the 60s, that was kind of the infancy of storm the meteorology department, tracking storms and tornadoes and stuff like that. So, like when we would get a tornado warning, it might be for that county, but you wouldn't know what part of the county it was in. So, we spent a lot of time in the spring in these storm cellars. And of course, what I was going to finish too is the men would stand outside going, "Yep, there it is. Yep, there it is." And then if the tornado came close, and they would come running in and close the door behind him. That did happen a couple of times. So it was kind of an interesting thing. Now that we have more technology, we know what the tornadoes are. And if you're awake, they had another one just last night down in Texas, and it's just wiped out that city. There's been a lot. Usually, this type of weather is late March, May, through May, and here it is, you know, three-quarters of the way through June, and we're having these kind of storms. It's kind of interesting. So, yeah, there's been a lot of damage to storms around here lately, but that was the storm shelter was kind of a staple of my springtime childhood. We just spent the time there. where we don't necessarily have to do that now because we have better technology and stuff. We always say weather guessers and stuff like that. That's very true. But they also know that when a tornado is coming, if you're actually paying attention, you know that that tornado is coming. And but I've also learned from being in Southwest Oklahoma where there were so many tornadoes of the time, you learn to read the clouds. You could tell when something was happening. It was real. I haven't learned it since I've been here. Even Northeast Oklahoma, I haven't learned reading the storm clouds like I learned down in Southwest Oklahoma. So my question of the day for you guys is, what have you had to do to recover emotionally from a string of setbacks? Like my setbacks is the water, the piglet, the storm damage, the car breaking down. Now I've had a series of pretty good setbacks lately. So I'd like to know is what is it you do to get your head straight again after you've had a series of setbacks like that? Pass it on. Let me know. Okay, my income producing activity of the day is Streamyard. This is the program I use for doing um my audio and video of my podcast, and I like it. I can do the stuff where you can see me, the video part of it that goes to my YouTube channel, This Grandma's Life podcast. And so people who want to sit and watch me talk, then they can, and that's pretty cool. And then, but I can also just do an audio recording without doing. I was trying to learn how to strip the sound off of video and all that other stuff, and I was really struggling with that. So I really liked StreamYard. And if any of y'all ever do stuff like that, and they have more professional setups that you can do for StreamYard, but look down the show notes below and check out StreamYard and whatever thing you do with it, then I get a little bit of a commission off of it, but doesn't cost you any more on it either. But regardless, I like StreamYard. I like it's at my level for certain. And I actually I believe it is on the same level for a lot of people who do more than I do. But I like the way it's set up. I like the way they're doing, and they're doing all kinds of new stuff too, where you can have multiples, people and stuff. I don't know, so they're improving, and I'm not necessarily. I'm still working on the same level, but there are a lot of different levels that you could be doing and doing more with that I'm not experimenting with. But I like it. They do streamyard.com. Look for it down in the show notes. Okay, so where I can be found, grandma's homestead.farm. Farm Animal Life is another YouTube channel. I'm on Instagram as theciaellis, TikTok, Facebook. But my main thing, and I'm kind of want to start talking to you about this a little bit too. Grandma's Homestead, my YouTube channel, Grandma's Homestead. I'm starting to gain subscribers. I would really like to start being monetized for that. So I would really appreciate if you would go to youtube.com, look up Grandma's Homestead, my YouTube channel, and subscribe. Maybe start watching a few of the videos and liking them and sharing with some people. I would really appreciate some of this interaction with you. And so maybe we can get me over 1,000 viewers and maybe get monetized. And so that would be nice. I would really like that. So I'd appreciate it. All right, guys, that's all I got for you today. I've got to get back to work. And we do have water today. So grateful for that. I'm so grateful for the people who got me going back again. And Tom was starting to feel better. He was having trouble with the heat. Things are going better. I'm ready. So God bless, guys. I'll see you next time.